Welcome to the Faith Film Fan Podcast. We have Brian Bird with us today for this episode. And Brian Bird has been involved in a lot of projects. I'm really excited to talk about each of these today because there are upcoming films that I don't even know about yet. So I'm excited to talk about that later in the episode. You may know him for The Case for Christ, which is an amazing film. Touched by an Angel, the show that was one of the first to be this faith show that was wildly successful and surprisingly so, I think. We'll talk about that one. Working with Michael Landon Jr. and then When Calls the Heart. And we're going to start with When Calls the Heart because I think everybody knows what this show is. If you don't, where have you been? Because I think we're coming up on season, 13? Is that right, Brian?
Yes, 13.
That is incredible. So tell us about When Calls the Heart. Thank you so much for just joining me today. This is going to be so good.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's an honor. Well, When Calls the Heart. Wow. When Michael and I first started working on this show was way back in 2008, to be honest. We were working on a movie version of the movie, and we just to give you just a taste of the origin story, I could go for an hour on that, but I'll
Sure.
just give you the quick version. Um, During the big financial meltdown of 2009 that everybody remembers, when the economy was crumbling all around us and presidents were having to meet with bankers to try to figure out how to keep the world from going into a depression, we were filming the movie When Calls the Heart. Um, in Alberta, Canada. And the money melted down in the middle of the movie. And so we ended up having to shut the whole thing down. Um, we had a half finished movie at that point. We thought, wow, this could be the end of our careers because that's the worst thing that can happen to a movie, shutting it down midway. It took us 3 years to solve the problem, to get the movie finished. And in those 3 years, the economy had changed, and the way the Hallmark channel was thinking about going, doing their business and going out to market. They had gone from just being a movie channel to wanting to do original series in those 3 years that we were shut down. And so at the end of that journey, we finished the movie with the Hallmark Channel. After the 3 years in the wilderness. And then
Wow.
they said, would you like to do 6 episodes? And that literally was how When Calls the Heart got launched. Um, God's timing versus our timing,
Yeah.
to be honest. And in the middle of the crisis, we felt like, wow, our plans fell apart. Like, what were we thinking? And but God had a different plan, but we had to go through that sort of wilderness experience, wondering where our careers were going to be. And that first 6 episodes turned into 12 episodes that first season. And we're now prepping season 13 because what we learned is that when you build it, they will come. Uh, we were just trying to make a good show. We didn't really realize that the audience was starved to death for something like this. And when the biggest lesson I guess we could learn from When Calls the Heart is that, in an age when everybody else is, making content for people that consists of zombies and vampires and crystal meth dealers and corrupt politicians and everything drips with cynicism. You come along with a show that is about goodness and hope.
Yes.
You find an audience that's starved to death for that kind of content, right? And it's no more complicated than this. If you bring food to starving people, they will love you.
Amen.
It's really that. And we didn't, we had worked on, obviously Michael has the legacy from his own father of Little House on the Prairie and Highway to Heaven. I had worked on Touched by an Angel. So we have been working in this space for quite a while, but you know, we were just trying to make a good show, and what we realized that there was this vast underserved audience.
Yes.
The reason why it's a success is maybe a little bit due to us, but I think it's more about the audience doesn't have enough as many choices as they used to with
Yes.
this kind of content.
It's so good. It's so true. I mean, the the selection is small of things. I always talk about, if you're watching something, are you breaking fellowship with the Lord by watching it? And for me, I'm like, there's just so few things that are available if you don't want to break fellowship with the Lord while you're watching it. And so thank you
100%.
for being faithful to pursuing this show. I mean, when you get shut down for 3 years, you would think that you would give up, but you didn't.
Yes.
So thank you for continuing on. Uh, if somebody wants to watch When Calls the Heart, if they have never watched it before, where would they watch it right now?
Well, yeah. So all 12 previous seasons are available for binge watching if people want to do that, in a couple ways. Obviously, th they're all up at Hallmark Plus, which is Hallmark's sort of video on demand, subscription video on demand service,
Okay.
which is over the top of their linear service, which is where we premiere our new episodes every year.
Mhm.
So they're all there. And then they're obviously all available if people want to, purchase seasons, they can, at all the regular places you do that, iTunes and Google and YouTube even you can get them. Um, and so that's a way to catch up if people haven't seen the show before.
Okay.
They can
Well,
watch it
good.
at Hallmark Plus for sure, or and that's a relatively inexpensive subscription. So, and we're prepping season 13 right now. That'll go into
Wow.
production this summer and be on, original premiere dates. We don't know when, but sometime in, 2026.
Tell me what your official role is with When Calls the Heart.
Well, Michael and I co-created the show way back when, and we were the initial showrunners on the show. We continue to be executive producers, and you know, we're part of the brain trust that brings the show to the public. We are sort of the face of the producers unit when we go, we do public events and so forth. But the beautiful part of building a show like this is that we've created this footprint, this production footprint up in Vancouver that is just now everybody knows what they're doing. And so we can actually do all of our work or most of our work remotely. We do go up to Vancouver, a few times a season to really be cheerleaders at this point. Um, but we read scripts, we give notes, we watch, cuts,
Yep.
in editorial, we give our notes, um, and we sort of help drive the Hardee's community,
Yeah.
of the fan army. Truly, it's what they are. They're an army now. Um,
Okay, so that was going to be my very next question. So you led right into it. Tell us about the Hardys. Okay, what does that mean? How have you partnered with them?
well, it's in the age of 1,000 television shows that are available to us at any one time right now.
Mhm.
All these streamers, and they're, the media pie used to be five pieces, right, of slices of pie with all
Yep.
the big, main networks. Now there's 100 slices of pie, and they're all, very small slices of pie.
Yeah.
So, and they're all competing for our attention,
Yep.
along with all the radio shows and the podcasts and the books and the movies that are coming to theaters and so forth, that all competes for all of our attention. So
Yes.
breaking through that noise is almost impossible, right? What you can't have a big enough marketing campaign to create a community, around anything.
Right.
But what you pray for and what happened for us that we didn't really understand until it was starting to show up is a grassroots fan base. Um, we in season one, all the way back in season one in 2014, we we were we were just making the show, trying to make a good show, and we were still finishing the last episodes when the show began to air, the earlier,
Wow.
episodes of that season. So we were up in Vancouver working on trying to finish up the last three or episodes or so when episode one started to, premiere on the Hallmark Channel. And what happened was we saw people on social media talking to us.
Yeah.
And you know, and they gave themselves a name, right? The show is When Calls the Heart. The name they gave themselves was Hardee's,
Yeah.
like Trekkies, but Hardee's, right? And they put a hashtag in front of their name and on Twitter at the time and Facebook and Instagram, probably less so on Instagram yet because it was all relatively
Yep.
social media was really a coming thing. And we saw people talking to us like we love the show. We're Hardee's, right? And we never experienced that before. When I did Touch by an Angel, we would get emails sometimes or letters like hard mail, snail mail letters and phone calls and so forth, voicemails. But this was a whole new thing for us to see this on social media. And we were just smart enough, right? Because I saw it first and I told my partners, I said, guys, they're talking to us. What are we supposed to do? And we were just with it enough to
Yep.
say, well, maybe we should talk back, right? And we did. And then we got our cast members, our actors on the show to begin to respond on social
Yes.
media. And then we talked to the Hallmark Channel about this, and they saw the grassroots fan base, arising. And so they had the idea, let us put hashtag Hardee's in the lower thirds of the screen on and off, like a watermark kind of on and off during those episodes. And it just blossomed. And by the end of that first season, we had a private Facebook group for the show, kind of an official Hardee's Facebook group that went from a couple of dozen to 10,000
Yeah.
like that season. And those Hardee's, and back then we didn't know if there was going to be another season, right? You have to like go through the refiner's fire, the proof of concept process
Right.
with the network. And so it wasn't immediately announced what was going to happen. We didn't know, right? And these Hardee's, these 10,000 Hardee's, put together the most interesting, renew the show campaign, right? Give us season two campaign. They made handmade hearts from all over the country, and they mailed them to a central hub of Hardee admins, and they strung all those hearts together with ribbon. And they sent 2,500 hearts in boxes to the channel. And when the channel got them, they just said, "What do we do with this?" Right? So they strung them in their offices, and they gave pieces of the chain to our cast members, and the cast members kind of put them over their shoulders and so forth, hanging these hearts hanging on them, and took selfies and posted those on social media, and it was born. This grassroots campaign or this grassroots army was born, and so we continued to just speak back to them and to nurture them because it's the only way to really break through the noise is when you have something like that happen. And I truly will say to this day that the Hardys are honestly the reason the show is on the air.
Sure.
I really believe that and still on the air because
Yes.
I do think our network, which we honor and patronize and love, they're scared to death what happens when they don't pick this show up for another season because the Hardys are all mamas. They're
Yep.
mama bears, right? Around the
Right.
show. and they will speak loudly if they don't like what's happening. And so
So
anyway,
it may just continue on forever.
well, we're doing season 13. I mean, to catch up with the Simpsons are at season 42 at this point. My whole career, the Simpsons have been on television. So, um, we'll never catch them, but if
But
we
you're
get,
on pace. You're on
we're on
pace.
pace, and we will make the show as long as the audience wants it, and
Yep.
as long as, people want it, we'll do more.
So good. Well, thank you for being faithful to just having something for everyone to watch. I mean, it's huge. People want to just sit down with their family and know it's something that is safe to watch. I mean, that's what
Yes.
this podcast is about, is it is something that we can enjoy together and create community even. I mean, that's what the Hardys did, was create a community around something. So thank you for
Yes.
being faithful to the process.
Well, and we have come to the conclusion of, in terms of our understanding of this whole thing, that, you know, back when I was doing Touched by an Angel, when Michael's father was doing Little House on the Prairie, every network had at least a few nights a week where they literally put programming for families
Mm.
that everybody could watch, right?
Yes.
Together on television. That, after Touched by an Angel ended in 2003, I mean, we finished original shows in 2003. I think everything changed, right? And there really is very little content out there.
Yes.
I don't know, if you remember watching TV with your family. I certainly did. Like, I would
Yeah.
watch with my whole family. We'd be sitting there watching together. It
Yes.
doesn't exist anymore. We're
Right.
going on our phones and our iPads and our own little bubbles, and everybody's split off watching content. And I think that picture of fracture
Yes.
is what has happened to our culture too,
Yes.
right? And so it's not popular in Hollywood to say we want to do this, that we want to do family entertainment. It's not hip, it's not edgy. All the trophies go to the people that do the edgy stuff.
Yeah.
We could care less. We want our awards come from the people, right?
Mhm.
That's who we make this content for, not for our peers. We make it for the people. And so I really do. We have a real big burning desire for even just the idea of multi-generations watching television together.
So good. Well, I want to talk about your upcoming projects. I know of three. So let's start with Home to Harmony. Tell us about
Okay.
Home to Harmony and what that's all about.
Would love to. So clearly we know how to reach an audience with all the fields,
Yes.
right? And we have an acronym for that we use. H for humor, E for emotion, R for romance. So that spells her, right?
Yep. Yep.
And then we add an O to the end, for optimism. So
Mm.
hero, right, is our acronym for all of this.
Yes.
And I thought I was on do not disturb. So sorry.
Oh, you're
Um,
good.
the and so we we know how to do this. We've been doing it on One Calls the Heart all these years. We did it in the past. So we found this series of books by a Quaker pastor named Philip Gulley, who has won all these American Humor Awards, and they're just delightful books about a small town church in a small Indiana town called Harmony, Indiana. And the pastor of that church is Pastor Sam Gardner, and he left town when he was a kid, like a bullet leaves a gun, wanted to be a rock star. He had hair, he had a band. It was like
Yep.
Scooby-Doo trying to make
Yep.
music, right?
Yep.
And left town, went to sow his wild oats, refound his faith, got married, went to seminary, became a pastor, and now he's coming back to Harmony after all these years to take over his boyhood church in this very
Oh,
quirky town. It has all the feels. It's contemporary, but it still feels old timey because it's in a small town, right?
yeah.
And so it's just full of quirky, fun, humorous characters, but also it's deeply emotional, as well. And it has all the feels that When Calls the Heart has. So during the pandemic, we sold that to one of the big streamers, and they bought it immediately. And we struggled for 2 years with them to get them happy
Hmm.
with what the show should be.
Yeah.
And the goalposts kept moving on us, and
Yep.
uh, they didn't know what they wanted,
Yeah.
right? We did. We knew what would work. And
Right.
so at the end of 2 years, we just decided to part ways, and we said, look, let us take it back.
Yeah.
Because we had written three completely new pilots for them, trying to figure out what would, scratch the itch there. And we didn't find it there.
Yeah.
But we said, we love this so much, we're going to do it ourselves.
Yep.
And so we approached Angel Studios with this. The creators of When Calls the Heart have a show they want to do, right?
Yes.
We went to Angel Studios, which is breaking all the rules
Yep.
of the way shows are traditionally made. And they have this unique approach to things where they let the people decide if the show should be greenlit or not,
Right.
not two guys smoking cigars in some office in Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Deciding your destiny. And so we decided to take the show to Angel Studios. We just went through our first round of the crowd investment, strategy that they use, where now the Hardys can actually become co-owners of
Oh,
a
that's so good.
right of
That's
another
so
show.
awesome.
And so we are bound and determined, just like we were with not giving up on When Calls the Heart all those years ago and went through the wilderness experience. Well, we're doing something similar with this. Um, and we're bound and determined to put this show on the air because, Angel Studios was the first place that The Chosen kind of blew up in
Right.
the world, right? And we love what's happened with them. And
Yes.
and now House of David,
Yes.
with my friend John Irwin and John Gunn,
Yeah.
taking that and blowing that up at Amazon. It's our time doing content like this because the audience, like I said, they're starved to death
Yep.
for more. So we're just going to do it. So we're excited about that. It's a much more democratic way to make a show. It's not the elites deciding what people should watch, right? It's the people deciding what they should
Yes.
watch. And we love that.
So good. So it will be on Angel Studios app. Is that how that
Yes,
works?
it'll premiere for the Angel Studios app, but then at that point, all bets are off. It can go everywhere. It
Okay.
has to premiere there. It's possible that because they've done this before too, where if there's a streamer that wants it also, they'll do a co-exclusive, well, where Angel and say Netflix or somebody else could actually have it at the same time,
Yeah.
for the right price, right?
Right.
If we're
Right.
taking all the risk, they have
Yep.
to, they have to put up or shut up at that point.
Yep.
But our goal is because When Calls the Heart has been so well received in so many different regions of the world,
Right.
we believe that'll happen with this also. And so once it premieres on Angel Studios platform, they're for their guild and for their subscribers, it can go everywhere, right? So
Amazing.
our goal is to get this in. I think The Chosen at one point has been on 120 different platforms around the world,
That's great.
right? 100 million people have watched The Chosen.
So
So
good.
uh, we would love a little tiny part of that success.
That's right. And is there a date set for that at all?
Well, it's all about, raising enough to get the first season going. And so we're in the middle of that process. We do have some other, champions that have come aboard to help us build up enough to do a good job of doing season one. So we're hoping by fall of this year, 2025, to be rolling cameras on it.
So great.
And then probably would premiere in 2020, early 2026, I would say.
So good. Do you have someone that is starring in it that we may know?
Yes, you might know Trent Garrett, who stars as Pastor Sam. He's been on a lot of different, TV shows. He was one of the stars of the Andy Mack show on the Disney Channel. We have Shonda Pierce, who is this incredible Southern comedian gal. She plays one of our quirky characters in the town. In fact, his secretary at the church, who basically runs the place uh, when he joins as the new pastor of this little church. And so we're gonna fill it up with the best people we can afford.
Right. That's right.
Right.
Well, we'll be praying for that, just for
Thank
the
you.
success of that,
Yeah,
to
it's
have
it's
yet
a
another show available for the family to watch.
yeah,
Thank you.
yes, and we love it because it's not going to pound anybody over the head. It's not we're not going to have an altar call at the end of the show, but we are but the church and people of faith will recognize themselves
Yeah.
in the show, right? Because
Good.
that's what I think is so powerful about these kinds of shows is
Yes.
that people of faith have not recognized themselves on most television pro shows, right? In the past.
Good.
We
Yeah, that's
love,
really powerful.
yeah, in their lives and their struggles and all of that. Nobody's perfect, right? We're all just sort of beggars, looking for food. And when we find some, we want to share it with other people. And that's kind of the grace and second chances that we love. We have a line of dialogue in the shows that when when grace comes up and knocks on your door and tells you it's going to be okay, you're home, right?
Wow.
That's the sort of the central theme of that show. And
Wow. I love that. Well,
yeah,
we're excited. We're rooting for you. We're praying for you for the success of that. Yet another show. Thank you for
yes,
doing that. You
thank
have a
you.
couple other projects. Tell us about these. I'm excited to hear about this next one. So,
Well, yeah, so I just finished the first draft of the screenplay of the John Wooden story. And I was a sports writer when I first launched my whole career. I mean, I morphed into TV and film after several years of just being a journalist. I went to journalism school, so I was a huge sports fan and sports journalist back in the day, uh, and j- I I grew up with John Wooden winning 10 championships at UCLA. I mean, no, he's the GOAT. Like when Ted Lasso puts the pyramid of success on his wall in Ted Lasso, that's like an iconic
oh,
figure from history. And
right. And even for those of you listening to this, you're probably not watching this. Brian has a pyramid of success right behind him on his desk. And the second I pull up the video, I'm like, oh, there's the John Wooden pyramid of success. My husband's a huge John Wooden fan. He's met
uh,
him and talks about him all the time. I personally probably wouldn't have known who he was just because I'm not into basketball, but
yeah.
I've understood. I told my husband, I said, I'm talking to Brian Bird. He's gonna have a movie on the greatest coach of all time. And he goes, John Wooden. So I mean, everybody knows
Yes,
this
for
legacy.
younger people, John retired from coaching in 1975. So it's been 50 years since he even retired
Yeah.
after he won his 10th NCAA championship in 12 seasons, right? Nobody's ever come close to anything like that. It's a March Madness is a single elimination tournament. It starts out with 32 teams to get to be the champion of that, right? Every year, like mostly every year for 10 seasons, it was unbelievable. So he is the GOAT. He's the greatest coach of all time. He was elected to the Basketball Hall of Fame as both a coach and a player, because that's what most people don't know. The man was a beast on the court. Like when he was a young, he was an two-time All-American at Purdue. He led them to a championship. And he played professional basketball when he was young uh, in the barnstorming days before the NBA even was formed. He played against the Harlem Globetrotters and the New York Renaissance and the Celtics and all of these other teams. And so what we decided to do with this movie is that since everybody knows, most people know about the dynasty, you know, the 10 championships in 12 years, we decided to tell his origin story. And not everybody knows that story. He struggled mightily for that first championship. I mean, he was at UCLA for 16 years before he won the first one, right? And he was always the bridesmaid, never the bride. He could get into the tournament. He did several times, but he was known as the coach who could never win the big game. And then he did, and then he never lost the big game, right? It's like, so, everybody loves that sort of that dynasty of the Wizard of Westwood, which was the nickname that he got that he hated, by the way. But we wanted to tell the struggle years and what he had to go through and going through World War II and going from a farm boy in Indiana, right, to coming west to UCLA and hating every second of being out here in La La Land, coming from the heartland. So there's just a whole range of conflict and story, really dramatic things that happened to him before he even got to that first championship. So we end the movie basically on the first championship.
So
And
good.
and he says to Jerry Norman, his assistant coach, and to Wilbur Johns, the athletic director, he goes, "Well, guys, enjoy this because it's unlikely we ever get here again." Right?
Yes.
Then he did 9 more times. So,
Nine more.
yes.
Do you have a date set for that
Well,
to
we're,
premiere?
it's just now, the script is just now being read. There's a whole bunch of people interested in reading this one.
Yeah.
And let's go. We'll do this as soon as anybody wants to do it. But my guess would be, it'll take us until 2026 to mount the production,
Yeah.
and then likely the movie the year after, just because you got to build, a marketing campaign around it and so forth. It's in God's hands. This one came to me really through a God thing. So I I just go, okay, God, I don't know how we get this done, but let's go. I'm willing. I'm willing to be the messenger here of this man's life,
Wow.
and so we're excited. And I do
Awesome.
know that the Wooden family that we had to work with to in order to get the rights to tell the story
Mm,
had seen the case for Christ, and that made a difference
yes.
to them because they want the people to make this movie because John was a deep man of faith
Yeah.
his whole life, and everything he did, every action he took came out of this love story he had for Jesus. So the family didn't want this in the hands of anybody who couldn't get that and tell it the right way. So
So
I'm
good.
honored to have been chosen to do this.
Absolutely. Do you want to share very quickly about the Case for Christ, and then we'll talk about your last upcoming project? I mean, the Case for Christ, so powerful for me.
Mhm.
I love that film. Tell us about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I had known Lee Strobel for probably a good, 20 years. Early in the 2000s is when I met him originally, and was a huge fan of the book, The Case for Christ, which is not, if you read the book, it's not a movie. It's like literally this incredible apologetics uh, deep dive into
Yeah.
the veracity of Scripture and the veracity of the story of Christ and the history of Christ and all of the ancient documents, which basically prove that was not just a mythological character that
Yeah.
some people think. And so Lee was approached by the people at Peerflix
Mm.
to want to make the movie, and Lee said, "I would love to do this as long as Brian Bird can write it." So
Wow.
it's another one of those things where it's a call, like it's a call on me. And I'm humble about that because I've my whole career, I've just said to God, I'll go where you lead. It's an impossible business to get things done. It truly is. It's the hardest business I've ever tried. But, uh, you know, God can plow through all the impossibility, on anything. So they loved my work, and so it was sort of a match made in heaven. But we decided that the only way to tell the story was to tell the love story between Lee and Leslie, his wife. And Leslie was a happy atheist right along with Lee. He was a Pulitzer Prize nominated, journalist at the Chicago Tribune. Uh, Both were happy atheists living their life in Chicago. And Leslie had an existential crisis in her life that drove her to start going to church and to follow Jesus, to follow Christ. And Lee could not let that go. He thought, and she was going to Willow Creek Church in Chicago, right? Way back in the early days of Bill Hybel.
Yeah.
And so, he said, my wife's in a cult. I got to get her out of this cult. And so all of this research he did about Jesus was to try to debunk her faith originally, right? And so we just decided to pin the story around that love story. And Leslie never stopped praying for Lee's salvation, right? And the giant love story from heaven to earth finally made sense to Lee because Leslie's horizontal love story with him and her love for him, she never let go of him either. And
Yeah.
so, after all this research, he realized that it would take more faith to remain an atheist
Yes.
than it would just to embrace the truth that his wife had embraced. And so we that's sort of how we decided to make that movie. And I think it was, really successful. John Gunn directed it, and he's now one of the creative forces in directing and helping write The House of David with
Yes.
John Irwin over at Wonder
Love that.
Project for Amazon. So great director, fantastic director. And Pureflix was great with us. They let John and I, make that movie. They just said, "You guys know what you're doing. You
Yes.
know, we'll provide some shape around the business part of it, but you guys go for it." And
Well, it was beautifully done.
thank
Anyone
you.
listening right now, if you have not seen The Case for Christ, it's just a beautiful movie. I mean, it's just what's your acronym? Humor, entertaining,
Humor,
romance.
emotion,
Oh,
humor,
emotion,
romance, and
romance, optimism. Case for Christ. There you go. It's really good, beautifully done.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
again
much.
for creating that film. And I think it's such a great film for anybody listening. If you have a atheist or anybody who is not following Christ, if someone doesn't know Jesus as their Lord and Savior, The Case for Christ is a great movie to watch together.
I am that part is for me deeply powerful, having been involved and playing a part in getting that movie done.
Yeah.
The I get emails all the time, and Lee Strobel sends me emails that he gets from around the world saying that film has been transformational
Oh,
for
yeah.
a family member. They've watched it, and or somebody has lost their faith, but they've reaffirmed their faith because that film, played a role in that. You know, and Lee and I will never meet all the people on this planet who watched that movie, right?
Mhm.
So what I told Lee is I said, it's kind of like our digital missionary. Like it's out there. It's like an extension of what we do, and it's a digital missionary. And I told him, I said, your books, all the books he's written are paper missionaries, right?
Yeah.
And this movie is a digital missionary. And someday we'll meet those people who this impacted. And for me, that like I could be done now, like with my career or my work, and still have a sense of that what I did mattered, on this planet. And that's really why I just keep pushing forward. I want to leave it all on the field, right? I will be a brain in a jar. If they'll still let me work, I'll just be a brain in a jar with a little voice box and try to be productive.
Well, thank you for your obedience to the Lord. I mean, there's a lot of people who have the talents that God has given them, and then they use it for worldly success. And you have had a lot of what people would consider worldly success, but ultimately you're looking for kingdom success. And I'm thankful that you've been obedient to what the Lord has called you to.
Thank you, Alita. It's a pleasure to share with your
Yeah.
audience.
We have one last project that I don't know anything about. So
Okay.
tell us about your last upcoming project.
Well, so the story of everything, I think that might be the one you're thinking about, is finished,
Hmm.
just finished. It's a documentary project that we've been working on for 4 years, all the way before COVID. We started working on it and then everything slowed down, making this movie.
Sure.
But it's deeply powerful documentary film that tells the story of Dr. Stephen Meyer, who you may or may not have heard, but he runs the Center for Science and Culture in Seattle, which is really the place where intelligent design sort of has it's the kind of the watering hole for all the famous scientists in the world who believe in design, right, in the universe. And so we have adapted his big 600-page book called The Return of the God Hypothesis, which takes us back and tells the story of the original scientific geniuses like Galileo and
Hmm.
Kepler, way back when, uh, who did believe there was design in the universe, but charted the course for science, all the way through the Enlightenment and evolution and scientific materialism. But it tells the story of design in the Big Bang that now 98% of all scientists believe was how the universe began. It wasn't eternal, it wasn't always here, which is what they thought was the case, the scientific materialists. Big Bang, the fine-tuning of the universe, right? Which both have design in them. You can't get around the obvious aspects of design in the fine-tuning of our universe. We live on a privileged planet. There's no other universe out there that has the the factors that would allow for life, right? And if you change those constants, those cosmological constants, those scientific measuring sticks that scientists use and astrophysicists use, change it just a little bit. It's just the big crunch. Like we're not here if those constants are changed at all.
Wow.
And so there's design in the fine tuning of the universe. There's design in the Big Bang that took place that led to our universe, and there's design in us.
Hmm.
There is on multiple levels. There is code in us, in the DNA. You read DNA, you read it one direction, you get one protein, you read it the other direction, you get another protein. It's the most sophisticated computer code, and Bill Gates has even said this. Richard Dawkins can't deny that there is like phenomenal coding in us. Well, code comes from somewhere.
Mm.
And the story of everything is going to tell that story that at the end of the day, we're the proof of God's design.
Wow.
And so we're really excited about it. We're about to reveal and release the first trailer for the film. Um, there's a lot of people that are excited about this coming, and we want to have it in theaters across America, likely either in the fourth quarter of this year or the first quarter of next year.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I'm excited for it. It's going to be good. Yeah, thank you. Wow. Like your diversity of what you're developing is phenomenal.
Well, thank you. I just after our experience with When Calls the Heart, with the failure, the meltdown, the failure, and the resurrection of When Calls the Heart, I I real I came to a place of fearlessness
Mm,
because I went through the worst that the business could throw at me.
yep.
Right? It was what we had was a widowmaker,
Yeah.
like heart attack with that movie,
Yep.
and I survived it. And so now I absolutely have no fear about anything. I will pitch stuff to anybody. I have no fear to go in anybody's presence and tell them what they need to do, right? Because I'm not wrong about that.
Right.
Right? They don't have to, but I say, okay, well, God bless. It's okay. Somebody else is going to do this, and I'll invite you to the premiere, right? So that we have to be bold. We just have to tell
Amen.
people what they need, right?
Yes.
And tell them that from a business stance, okay, you don't have to do this, but you're leaving money on the table
Yeah.
by not choosing to do this because we know who the audience is, who wants this,
Yeah.
and it's a really big audience.
Good.
The last time I checked, more people go to church every Sunday, even though there's been a decline in that for
Sure.
sure, right?
Mhm.
But more people go to church on Sunday than watch the Super Bowl.
It's a
It's
great stat. It
right.
really gives you a perspective of the the audience that is starving for
Yes.
content. I mean, it's not just shows, it's not just movies, it's documentaries, it's all of the screen time that families want to spend together. I've
Yes.
always said, as I have interviewed so many people for Christian films, I'm like, okay, a typical family probably has about one time a week that they want to watch a movie together. I think that that's pretty average. One movie a week, that's not a lot, but that's
Right.
about right, I think. That means that 52 new films, Christian family-friendly films need to come out every year and I don't see it yet. There's been an incline for sure. It's just still not where it needs to be. And that's just movies. Okay, what about shows? What about documentaries? What
Right.
about and so I just champion anyone who is pursuing
Well, if yeah, I agree with you 100%, and if everybody else is offering a diet of razor blades and broken glass, think about that. If it's razor blades and broken glass that we're consuming 24/7, it tears us up inside,
totally.
right? Just dripping with cynicism, right?
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
more, no wonder the culture is so divided and so polarized and angry and hostile.
Hmm.
They're feeding on razor blades and broken glass.
Yeah.
And what all of us in this space, right? It's not just me. There are a whole bunch of really, really gifted artists
Yes.
who are working. What we're offering is soul food.
Yeah.
Like it's
Totally.
not broken glass and razor blades, it's medicine,
Yes.
right? And it heals. It heals those torn up insides. And I really, it's a very simple, word picture there, but I really believe that. I really believe in what we're doing, that we're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
We're called to do it.
Yeah.
And, at a time when The Chosen and House of David are just blowing up on one of the biggest platforms,
Oh yeah.
right? It's like the year of the Bible there, right? And Dallas Jenkins is not done after he's done with The Chosen,
Yeah.
right? He's got way more stuff coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm they're not my competitors. I'm allies with them. I
Amen.
want them to win. I want them to be the king,
Amen.
because every when a rising tide floats all the boats. And God bless the
Amen.
projects that are happening right now for everybody.
Thank you for joining us on this podcast. We're just praying for you that these projects that you're working on, I know you have even additional new projects. Thank you for just your dedication and your obedience to the Lord. And we're praying for the success for each and every one of them.
Thank you so much, Alita. Not very nice to meet you, and appreciate being with your audience.